ask for one more kind of cool thing. This wasn't even a consideration that I had whenever I applied for the Venture X, but they're partner with Taylor Swift for Eras Tour, and just
Mm.
happened to get the email for they did a sale for Venture X card holders and managed to snag Taylor Swift tickets at face value for the first time in, geez, I can't tell you how long, for New Orleans. So yeah, if it wasn't for the Venture X, we wouldn't be going to the show next weekend. So.
Hey everyone, thanks for attending another episode of Woohoo Points. Today I have a former coworker, Josh Perry. We're going to talk about his credit card strategies, and not just his, but him and his wife. As a side note, both of our wives are named Sarah, so that's also a connection. But you don't have to go through this credit card game alone. Having a player two can be helpful, or sometimes it might be more annoying and harder to find a word travel. But we'll go get into that. Josh, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe even tell us a cool redemption you had over the past year that you can, excite the viewers about.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Well, like I said, or like you're saying, with both of us married to Sarah's, and I get to kind of do the two-player card game. But I appreciate you having me on and the opportunity to, have this conversation and share a little bit of our experiences. To your question about, cool redemption, I guess I won't say that this is necessarily recent in the last year, but like favorite redemption we've done. I feel like if you're married and you've gone on a honeymoon, like I feel like you have to say your honeymoon's the favorite thing you've ever done. But like it truthfully was the best trip we've ever taken, has like set the bar for things that we want to do in the future. But that was like back when Sarah and I had just kind of started trying to pool our points and figure out what we might be able to do. And we were definitely not as experienced in the kind of points gathering and usage game, but we managed to swing. We went to Australia and New Zealand for a honeymoon. And I don't think we paid out of pocket for any of the flights that we did, which we weren't doing the business class that we've like upgraded to now. But, when you're still relatively young and have the opportunity to use points to fly, you know, 17 hours over to Australia, hop around Australia for a few days, and then fly over to New Zealand and then come home without having to pay out of pocket for the trip, for the flights itself. Yeah, that was definitely a good kind of intro to really using points to the best of our ability. I think up until that point, both of us had been primarily using the portals within, whether it's Amex.com or whatever, and doing point redemptions that way. And then that's like where we first realized that, oh, you're leaving a lot of value on the table when you do that. So good lesson learned for us there.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. Anything coming up that you'd like to share with trips?
Yeah, so I was talking about our wedding. We got married on New Year's Eve, and the company we're currently working for kind of closes from Christmas to New Year's Eve. So we're taking the opportunity to use that as like a yearly trip to we do for going somewhere fun and different that we've not been before. This year, we're actually going to Zurich in Switzerland, and we're going to try out. Uh, British Airways for the first time, booked the flight with points in their business class product. And actually, I think it was just yesterday they changed our plane from the 787, which has their older business class product, to a 777, which if I'm looking correctly, whenever I was looking at the phone, has their newer business class product with just the two center seats and the one and one aisle seat or one window seat for there, rather than the backward forward kind of seating configuration. So fingers crossed that plane stays, because I mean, I won't complain about having the lie flat and arriving a little bit rested, but having a little bit more space in the newer kind of refitted cabin would definitely be a huge plus, huge benefit.
For sure. I'm wishing the best of luck on that. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, so let's get into it. Why is it helpful to have two players in the credit card game? A lot of the people we've talked to before, it's just by themselves. That
Yeah.
allows them flexibility. They can kind of book whatever they want. They don't have to rely on other people's schedules. Tell me, what are the benefits that you kind of see in this game?
Yeah, I think the benefits are kind of twofold. Number one, like I know that some folks kind of focus solely on the sign-up bonuses, and I think from a points accumulation standpoint, I mean, provided you have the credit and everything and the ability to be churning cards and kind of evaluating. where you can go to get the next, big point bonus. Like that's a great way to go. And if you have, a second person that you're able to work with, one of the benefits there is there's typically a referral bonus that you can also tack on to the sign-on bonuses. So that way you sign up for the card, you get your spouse to sign up for the card, you're getting the referrals as you're going back and forth amongst those, or amongst your partner or your number two. So I think that's a great benefit, but also we definitely don't do as much of the kind of churning for sign-up bonuses. A big portion of it is we're like saving to buy a house before too long. And like one of the things that we're conscious of is kind of new accounts or hits to our credit history that want to avoid for the time being. So the main way that we're accumulating most of our points at this point or is, if we have a friend, we can get a referral link if they're looking for a card, but also we have a number of different cards that we use, and it's not a huge number of points, but when I can use my Amex Gold for groceries and food, and then use the Platinum for booking flights and get the 5 times points, and then use her Chase Sapphire whenever we're doing kind of travel that doesn't fall into any of the other categories, it provides a way for us to use the best card for the most return in points whenever it comes to booking, or whenever it comes to actually spending. And then whenever it comes to booking, it definitely can create a little bit of a hurdle, a little bit of a hassle in terms of, okay, well, great. Now we've got points spread across Capital One and Amex and Chase. Where can we actually redeem those points? So it definitely limits you a little bit. But the side benefit of the limitation there is we're able to accumulate more points faster. And I mentioned the yearly trip we're kind of taking over our anniversary. The what we've kind of set out to do is we accumulate points, don't use them throughout the year, and then when it comes time to book the anniversary trip, great, like that goes towards business class flights or a nice hotel redemption while we're there. And it just isn't something that would be feasible for us on points alone, if we weren't pooling them between the two of us.
That makes sense. So, do you guys have the same exact set of cards, or it sounds like you guys have slightly different ones to optimize? Like, what's the main?
Yeah, candidly, my Sarah's not too into the point strategy game. She honestly just doesn't care, and she's like, "Josh, you do all that stuff. Just tell me which card to use." So
Same here, yeah.
yeah. So I've got an Amex Platinum, the gold. I've got an Amex Delta card that I mainly just use because my former company prior to coming where I am now, they flew everything on Delta, so it was helpful for me there. And I don't want to lose it at this point. It's an account that I've had for a while, so I maintain it. And then we both have our own separate Chase Sapphires, and then I've got Sarah as an authorized user on my Venture X, so that way she gets the priority pass access. And like the nice thing about Venture X is you're able to add that authorized users at no additional fee, whereas if I were to add her to my Platinum, I've got to fork out the additional cash for her. Um, so yeah, any type of hotel bookings that or travel bookings that don't fall into platinum flight uh, booking to where we're getting the 5x or the 5x points. I just do all those on Sarah's, and then almost everything else fits into one of the other cards that we have with my Venture X just being like the catch-all for the 2 times points.
Yeah. No, pretty similar on my end too. Before I was an authorized user on my Sarah's Venture X, because it's very nice. Up to 4 free authorized users
Yeah,
allows that to spread out. So if you have family members, it doesn't even have to be, a spouse or a girlfriend, boyfriend. It can be
yeah.
another family member. So that's very helpful from the earning points side. Now I want to kind of pivot towards the redeeming points. Um, a common thing we know in this game is that there's limited availability for business class, or you might need more flexibility depending on where you're going, when you're going. It sounds like you're going during a very popular time. So tell me about kind of the struggles or maybe cool things you found when booking during the holidays, really, for two people.
Yeah. So, as you were saying earlier, whenever you're trying to book at a popular time, and unfortunately for us, our anniversary, New Year's Eve, so that we're flying during that Christmas to New Year's and then post New Year's window to where like the points redemption times is it's not nearly as great as it can be if you have the flexibility to take a kind of trip on a whim during the middle of the middle of the year.
Hmm.
But what's nice is I feel like there have been a number of tools that have popped up that allow you to track what what the redemption levels are at any given time, set alerts for it, um, and then there are a few now that allow you, if you have the multiple points across a number of different redemption programs, they'll allow you to, choose which ones you're using and then show you which ones you can pool points across Amex and Capital One and Chase. So that way okay, well, I've got 120,000 points across the various kind of across my different partners. Where can I get the most value for my point? Um, and then one of the things that's been nice, I guess, is Amex has added points.me, I think is the one that they have that you're able to utilize if you don't want to pay, because a lot of them do charge. And I think if you don't have access to a free tool through your card, I think it's very much worth the money in terms of being able to find good redemption values. So over the holidays, what do we do? We'll typically start tracking. Probably this past year, we started looking in April, May, for being able to book over New Year's. And then we won't necessarily book at that time, but we kind of see, okay, well, what are what's it looking like points wise?
Hmm.
And is it the case to where it may be worth starting to try and book now, or should we wait? Uh, and one of the things that it's a gamble, but whenever you're looking at partners like Lufthansa or something like that, they typically release their business class availability a lot closer to the actual date.
Like
So
2 weeks
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
One of the things that like we've looked at considering doing is just, okay, well, let's book a refundable, decent enough flight so that way we know we can still get there
Yeah.
if things kind of fall apart and we lose at the points gamble. But if you have the ability to do something like that, it does provide you the opportunity to say, okay, well, like we'll just wait and see what Lufthansa has available. And um, if the stars align, we're going to be able to get that business class product, cancel, get our money back for whatever we had booked previously. And one of the things that I really enjoy about that is like I'm enough of an aviation geek to where like I also like to watch, okay, well, where are the 747s and the A380s flying, especially because they're only going to be around so much longer.
Yeah.
Um, and you can also like just kind of play with which planes are available and see if that redemption works out for you. So yeah, that's the way that we've gone about it. We're in a position now to where we've decided that's the time we're taking the trip. So, we probably are a little bit more willing to accept some less than ideal points redemption level value, I guess you would say, than what you can get if you have that flexibility to book at another time.
Yeah.
But it's been something that's worked for us. It's a trip that we know we're going to take anyway, and it saves us money on that. And ideally gets us in a position to where whenever we're flying out, especially when we're headed to Europe,
Hmm.
uh, we're even willing to, okay, fine, we'll take the business class redemption on the way there. So that way we show up rested and can actually start doing things. And then it may turn out to be the case to where, well, we might be flying economy back because it just works out a little bit better. And it's a daytime flight coming back. So I'm less concerned about trying to get sleep anyway.
Yeah.
So
Now, I want to go back to what you just said, where
yeah.
you would buy these flights because you know when you're going. This is a trip you always take. You might not care as much about the redemption value. A lot of travel points people will brag, I got 10x value, 14x value. Great, but were you going to take that first class trip to all the way to halfway across the world? Were you going to take that PTO and sacrifice other things or spend more money on that trip to get food and accommodations? Um, for some people that's a yes. They love that, and for others, you know, these are more important. So I think like comparing points values is sometimes helpful, sometimes it's not. Right? You are going on this trip. You want it to be free versus thousands of dollars, regardless.
Yeah, I see a lot of times you see folks talking about being able to use points to redeem, the Emirates super swanky, first
First,
class, what is it? They have like an apartment and everything. And I think that's super cool and it's an experience I'd love to have, but I don't want to chase the opportunity to do that for the sole sake of doing that, as opposed to, I know my wife and I are going to take this anniversary trip and we have a way to make it even more enjoyable than it is already and, save some dollars while we're in the process.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't work out for the better.
Yeah.
For example, I went to the Maldives last year. I really wanted to fly the Emirates first class, so that was more the priority. But to do that, I had to take the Amtrak, although I booked business, Amtrak from DC to Newark, and then fly from Newark all the way to Athens, and then had to make my way to the Maldives. So yeah, for me at that time, it was worth to do the extra great redemption, great service. But other times, like I'll go for a lower CPP 1.4, 1.3 maybe, because I'd rather, I just want it for free.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, I have a fun question for you. You usually business class seats, there's at least two. Air France is known to have eight sometimes. Sometimes it's just one seat. If there was only one business class seat available on points,
Cool.
and it's a trip that both of you wanted to go on, let's say, in 2026, 2027, honeymoon trip, what do you do?
See, here's the thing that's tough. Sarah would absolutely tell me to take it because she knows that I can't sleep in an economy seat on a plane, period. And she can
And
sleep
sorry to
fine.
interrupt. You can't tell, but Josh is actually very tall as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I barely fit. My knees are in the back of the seat. If I'm in an economy class seat, I just can't sleep. And she knows that. I know it. Um, However, I was born in the morning and it wasn't this morning. So I know that I'm not gonna take, if there's only one available, if anyone's going to take it, it's going to be her. And so where that actually ends up is neither of us will be willing to take it and we'll just suck it up and fly economy. And then I don't know, we can save the points and use them on the next flight.
That's a very good answer.
What
uh,
about you? What's your answer?
oh, um, so going back to the Emirates trip, they only released one first class seat. But for business, you're allowed to upgrade at check-in. So what
Hmm.
I did was I booked Sarah, obviously, for first class, even though she's smaller and doesn't need all that space. I think as a husband, we always try to put our wives first.
Yeah.
Um, and thankfully, I got to the counter. There were seats available. I had just lost my Amex Gold card, so I was planning to transfer my Amex points to Emirates, but I couldn't because they needed the CVV code and I
Oh
memorized it.
no.
Not, and I was freaking out. Then I remembered every bank transfers to Emirates, so then I was able to use my Chase points, transfer Emirates, also get first class. But so that's what happened in that case. But I think anytime else, it's always going to be yeah, Sarah first.
Yeah.
And like this happened also kind of recently because my wife's pregnant. Sarah, definitely deserves business class, but even afterwards, you know, we'll give her the business. Me and my son will stick in economy because he has to learn character building. He's not going to get spoiled just from all business class anyway. So I think
I
that's
mean, you can't even begin to appreciate how great business class is until you've had the years of the economy flights way back and
exactly
the planes.
exactly
So
yeah.
yeah.
So we talked about some benefits, some limitations. Want to harp a little bit more on any limitations that you think that you want people to know about or share. It's not all glitz and glam. Again, business class. I think we've talked about the realism a little bit, but um, you know, the Instagram reels are cool. There's a lot of cool flights, really cool things. But what are some other realities that you would like to share for people?
Yeah, so I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Some folks pool points across a number of cards, or yeah, across a number of cards. I think I mentioned earlier, like that's definitely not the most efficient way to build up your pool of points. Like if you're wanting to take the trip sooner rather than later, like the fastest way to get there is the sign up bonuses. However, it's a significant investment in time to track where you've opened cards, where you're eligible to do based upon when you've done it recently. Are you abiding by the Chase's 524 rule?
Mhm.
Um, have you not had an Amex long enough to where you're now eligible for the points again? So there's a significant time investment in terms of sign-up bonuses, but there's also a time investment in terms of tracking, okay, well, where can I actually redeem my points? Um, Especially if you've got points pooled across three, four different potential partners. The easiest places, in Virgin Atlantic or something like that, where you might get the best point redemption value. You may not be able to transfer points from the number of partners that you need to actually get to the total you need.
Mhm.
So that can be kind of a bummer. And then, I've also just seen folks be irresponsible with opening up a bunch of cards and all of a sudden, like this thing that's supposed to be free and you're supposed to be benefiting from, suddenly they're not paying off their cards in time. They're accumulating hundreds, thousands of dollars in interest, and all of a sudden it's
Not
like,
worth it.
yeah, you're not saving any money anymore. You're now costing yourself and then doing yourself a disservice to your credit. And then, kind of speaking about a disservice to the credit I mentioned earlier in our conversation, we're at a stage now to where we're looking to buy a house. Credit cards don't necessarily hurt your credit. They can help it, but if you're in the position to where you're looking to get a mortgage sometime soon, like one of the things they're going to look at is how many new credit accounts have you opened recently? And if your credit's good enough, I don't think it's necessarily going to prevent you from getting the mortgage that you need, but it definitely is going to have a negative impact on what interest rate you may get. So
Yeah.
just considerations you needed to think about. As you kind of enter the game and figure out what your strategy is going to be.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And then I think a lot of questions that some of my clients have is authorized users.
Hmm.
Are either of you authorized users of each other's card? If yes, why? If no, why not? Like anything's there.
Yeah, so one place where I'm an authorized user on Sarah's, she's got a Chase Sapphire Preferred. Meanwhile, I have the Reserve. So there are some situations to where if we are doing a redemption from Chase's portal, you definitely get the better value per point if you're doing it from the reserve account. So she'll transfer the points to me into my reserve account, and then I'll do the booking from there. Although, as we've talked about earlier, the you're not getting your best value per point if you're doing that versus transferring out to other partners. So
Mhm.
it's not something we do all the time, but it's a reason that I am an authorized user on her Chase Sapphire. And then I think I had mentioned earlier that the Venture X that I have, Sarah's an authorized user on that account. So that way, most of the time when we're flying together, but we're not always. And if she wants to get lounge access, whether it's a lot of times we're flying out of Dulles where they have the Capital One lounge,
Mhm.
so she's able to go to that lounge, or again, at no additional cost with that Venture X, she's able to get as an authorized user her own Priority Pass account. Whether or not Priority Pass is really worth it these days, I think is a debate that a lot of folks are having. I feel like you're getting turned away at a lot of lounges these days, but it is an option that she has if she's flying on her own to be able to access the lounge if she's waiting a little bit in the airport. But other than that, that's pretty much it. We've debated adding her as an authorized user for the Platinum, so that way she can get Centurion Lounge access. As I mentioned earlier, the only spending I do on my Platinum at this point is when I'm booking flights, and as
Mhm.
a result of that, I'm not getting to the 75,000 yearly for the free lounge access, and
It's a
I don't
lot.
anticipate getting there anytime soon. And if so don't have the ability to get her in as a guest without paying. But I'm at this point kind of weighing, okay, well, am I gonna do that enough to warrant the 175, I think is what it is these days. Maybe it's 195 versus just every now and then paying $50 to get her in as a guest. And that we've just opted to pay to get her in as a guest rather than add as an authorized user. But that
All factors
calculus
in
may
that.
change. But yeah, it just where we are thus far.
Yeah. For other reasons, besides the annual fee, are there other reasons why you wouldn't add someone as an authorized user?
Um, I mean, if it's someone you know well, like a spouse or someone like that, I don't think you have to be too concerned about them going and, conducting a spending spree on your card, or maybe it is something you're worried about. But at least in the case of Sarah, like that's not something I'm worried about. I guess that could be a concern depending on who it was. I think you were talking about earlier that like you can add up to 4 free authorized users for the Venture X at no cost. So like that could be a consideration you have there. If you have someone younger who you're helping them trying to build up a credit profile, it could be a good opportunity for them to get on as an authorized user, just so long as they're trustworthy enough, because you're still going to be on the hook for the dollars that they're charging on the card.
Mhm.
Um, there could also just be some other benefits too. I was talking earlier about, priority pass access, or some of the other kind of features that come with it, as well as like global entry or something, paying for the global entry access or membership fee. That could be a consideration for some folks. For us, I feel like the Venture X covers most of the benefits that
Yeah.
that she would be getting. So that's the only one that we've really done thus far.
Yeah, that we're pretty similar. Sarah is a authorized user on my Amex Gold, so when we're not working on a sign up bonus, it is nice to have those restaurants and whatnot. It's free, but I try not to add her too much just because of
Mhm.
Chase 524, and it's just not needed, and just more cards to use or lose potentially.
Yeah.
So cool. I know we only have a couple minutes left. Any last words of wisdom, things you want to share to all the folks here?
Yeah, one of the things that, conversations when I start having conversations with folks who are considering kind of getting into the points accumulation game is, I don't know, aren't those cards expensive? And some of them are, but I truthfully don't look at it as an expense so much as it is me prepaying for things that I'm going to do anyway. And if you're taking a look at the benefits that are made available from the cards, whether it's um, priority pass lounge access, whether it's some of the credits that Amex makes available, whether it's Uber or whether it's the digital entertainment credits or anything like that. I truly look at it as I'm prepaying for things that I know that I would make these purchases anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So is the annual fee high? Sure, but it's really not it's not an added expense from my standpoint. And, I definitely think it's worth folks kind of taking that calculation into consideration whenever they're looking at it and going, oh, $595 a year, that's a lot of money. Well, okay, maybe it is, but if you're looking at the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you're going to get a $300 annual travel credit that instantly knocks that figure down
Yep.
right off the bat. So don't let the annual fees scare you. I don't think that's me saying carte blanche. You should go and apply for all the cards. Like, definitely take a look, maybe, but take a look and see, does it make sense for kind of your lifestyle and the way that you spend? Are you going to get the value out of it? If you are, then all of a sudden this annual fee that looks daunting is it's an extra expense you'll have in January, but it definitely nets out throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Last week I wrote a blog post exactly about this. So for those watching, check that out. But otherwise, Josh, thank you so much for being a guest here, sharing your experiences, and yeah, wish you the best of luck on your trip at the end of this year.